Malaysia has a few things going for it now. It's got a government which understands how the world is supposed to work. It's got a government which is trying to open up so that people can, if they accomplish something, they can see the fruits of their labor. They have lots of natural resources. They're right in the middle of all of this. They have multiple languages. So Malaysia has a lot going for it. I would not have always said that. I've certainly had criticisms of Malaysia in the past. But at the moment, I'm much more interested. I have investments in Malaysia for the first time in a long time. I first came to Malaysia to make investments in 1985. So I've been involved one way or the other with Malaysia for nearly 30 years. At times, I've been very pessimistic about Malaysia. At the moment, partly because of the new government, which is taking a much more open approach to Malaysia and to the world. They understand economics better than some governments. They have big reserves. They have huge natural resources. They have a very large agricultural component of their economy, and I'm extremely optimistic about agriculture. They're right here in the middle of ASEAN. I'm optimistic about most of what's happening in ASEAN. They got this neighbor called China as well. So, there are lots of things. They're multicultural, which sometimes has been a negative here, but they have multiple languages. There are a lot of things going on in Malaysia that, for me anyway, means it's time to start thinking about or to start investing in Malaysia again. And I have, by the way. I do have investments in Malaysia. Since the new government came in 2 or 3 years ago, I started investing because I saw what the new government was trying to do. So I am more optimistic about the future of Malaysia. Many things. I mean, there are problems everywhere, but there are many reasons to be thinking about investing in Malaysia now. One of the sectors of the world that I'm most confident about and optimistic about is agriculture. I mean, if you get tired of doing broadcasting, you should head off and become a farmer, because I am wildly optimistic about agriculture and Malaysia. That's one of the great strengths that Malaysia has, which most people don't seem to pay much attention to, but that's one of the reasons I'm most optimistic about Malaysia. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on which side you're on, there are always people scrutinizing everything, whether it's Microsoft or palm oil or whatever it happens to be. It goes with the territory. And yes, whenever somebody interferes with something, it impedes the growth of that industry. Now, maybe that should be impeded. I don't happen to think that there's much wrong with palm oil, and it provides jobs and income for a lot of people, but there are other people who disagree. But that's part of the game, no matter what the game is. If you're selling Coca-Colas on the street corner, somebody's going to come along and complain. The assets right now are in Asia. The largest creditor nations in the world are China, Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan. This is where the money is. I mean, Malaysia's got big reserves for its size. A lot of countries have big reserves in Asia. You don't have gigantic debts in Asia. If you look out the window, you can see where the debts are. Go east and go west, and it depends on which way you want to go. Go east or west, and you'll see a lot of debts in Europe and America. So the world, I moved to Asia because I want my children to grow up in Asia, because this is the century of Asia, and I want them to be here. Now, there's some great opportunities. Many of the ASEAN countries are going through big changes. Malaysia, Indonesia, Myanmar. My goodness, what's happening in Myanmar. So most of the great opportunities in the future will be in Asia. Korea, I find very exciting, what's happening in North Korea anyway. Russia, to my astonishment. I've been bearish on Russia between 1946 and recently, 1966 and recently. So there are plenty of opportunities. Angola, there are great things happening. Tanzania, Ethiopia. There are places in the world where things are getting better. But unfortunately for the world, the largest economies in the world having problems, and that means everybody will suffer. Move. The best way to protect yourself is to learn about what's happening outside your own country, whatever your own country is. And by the way, everybody should have some investments outside their own country as an insurance policy, if nothing else. Even if you live in the best country in the world, have some money somewhere else just in case. You have a health insurance policy, have a country insurance policy. And there are great opportunities taking place in many parts of the world, so you should learn about those investments. And many countries are going to go through the ringer in the next decade or two. There are going to be dramatic changes, and you need to protect yourself in case you happen to have your assets in one of those countries. I'm not the least bit optimistic about the U.S. or other places in the next couple of decades. So you need to have diversification and protection.